We're good.
Okay, time being 4:30, I'd like to call the finance personnel meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First on the agenda is the resolution accomplishing the establishment of wards in accordance with the data furnished from the 2020 census. Nicole?
So in your packets, you'll see the proposed plan for the aldermanic districts and the wards. This was created by Wapaka County. There's no changes to the wards and districts that were in Outagamie County, except for their name. Like we were talking, those will be now be District 5 and wards 10 and 11. So I've included for you today a packet that has the different maps of each of the aldermanic districts, and I'll walk you through what the changes are here on the screen. So this is aldermanic District 1. You'll see the only, and I also included the current election map as well in your packet. So the only changes here are that this aldermanic district has gained this number 5 here, this number 34 on the other side of the river. And then they lost this block here. And then they lost this pink spot here where along the river.
By John, by you.
Yeah, where the bait shop was. So pretty similar, just those two changes for District 1. Now, District 2 similarly is pretty much the same. The only difference is they gained these two up in the upper right corner here. I will want to point out that with the appointment for the person that's filling the vacancy, they cannot get addresses in these two blocks until for this, for this election. They won't be representing these people until the April election. So they can get those addresses when they gather addresses, but right now they're not represented by District 2. That makes sense. So Aldermanic District 3 is north of the river. This was formerly known as District 5. And the only difference besides the new name is this strip on the south side of the river on West Wolf River Ave. District 4. Their change is pretty minimal. They gained this little block here. And then District 5 is, I don't have it up on this map, but you have it in your packets. It's the same as it was, everything in the city limits on the Outagamie County side. The only change there, we had an annexation between the 2010 census and the 2020 census. So that property was its own ward, which isn't very, it's not very user-friendly for voting. So now that annexation is included in the wards now. So the resolution that you're looking at and voting on has the different population breakdowns of those wards. And you'll see they did a pretty good job. They have to get those between 300 and 1,000. And, you know, in a perfect world, those are close to each other as well as the aldermanic districts. So you'll see the ward breakdown on the right. And then the district breakdown here. So District 1 has 1380, District 2, 1370, District 3, 1450, District 4, 1396, District 5. Again, that's all of Outagamie County, 1754. So pretty darn close to each other. And then this resolution just has the description of those different wards that you'd be voting on. And then the ordinance that needs to be approved by council for the redistricting process at the county and state level designates voting places. Everything remains the same as far as voting places, with the exception of the UCC church. So District 1 had 2 polling places in it, and District 2 doesn't have any polling places in it. So Wapaka County's suggestion was that we do the voting for both of those districts at the Washington Center, rather than at the UCC and the Washington Center. I think that makes sense, just because the Washington Center is a little bit more accessible of a building than UCC. I don't know if you've been in that church, but you pretty much walk in and there's a set of stairs. They do have an elevator. It's older, and I mean, it works. I don't think the poll workers will necessarily love this. It'll be the same as the growing pains of changing the numbers of the districts. But I think in the long run, it will be fine. You know, when people come in the door, we'll have some of them go, you know, one way to one room and some of them go to the other room. So that's the big change on that ordinance. You guys have any questions?
You've been pushed all over, and that thing we used to go to the library.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, in 10 years, maybe we all go to the library. Like, the city of Wapaka does all of their polling at one polling place at their new rec center. I don't know. Sue said there was a lot of pushback when residents had to drive across town, when they, there was some, when the church on Beckert, when Trinity got leveled by the tornado, then residents had to go vote at Crystal Falls, and they were upset about having to drive across town. So I don't know. But I think these two, you know, Washington Center and UCC are like 4 blocks apart. So I can't imagine you'll get a lot of pushback there. So this is where the Washington Center is located, and the UCC is located here. So they're 4-5 blocks apart. I don't know.
Trinity too, again.
Yep. So that District 4 would still be voting at Trinity, which is here.
And 2 will still be the Washington Center.
Correct. And I did, you know, I gave the UCC a call, and, you know, because they had just given us a key to the church, and I said, you know, we're proposing that we don't use that as a thing. And she was, you know, if anything changes, she was more than willing to let us vote there, but we left it at that. So.
Any other questions?
Will in above and beyond the normal notices, you know, there's the insert that city does to let people know that polling location change. Will there be, is there some kind of requirement where we gotta really let people know about that? Or-
Yeah, I think for the people where it's changed, they have to get notified of that. You know, especially for, you know, for example, this block here that used to be in one spot and now is another, or if they're, you know, now voting in a different place, yeah, they'll have to be noticed on that. I haven't really got guidance from the county on that because of this compressed timeline to really get these passed.
I think that, Nicole, I think it's the county clerk's job to, which references Johnny, put the stuffers in the paper.
Yeah,
Election year,
Yeah.
depending on where, like around here, they'd have London, Caledonia, or Tony. What?
yeah. And the clerks generally will do that together. They don't statutorily, they don't have to, but they say, hey, more people are gonna see this if we do this ad that's, all of us together. So, yeah, that there will definitely be notice. And I will say too, I don't know if any of your constituents have been having this, but I've been having a lot of people call because they're getting a notice in the mail that they aren't registered to vote. So usually when I talk to those people, I try to tell them, oh, and just so you know, we're going through this redistricting, and, I get their address, tell them where, where they're proposed, what district they're in, if they're still in their same district. So I've been trying to do that as well, when people are registering or confirming if they're registered or not.
And I'm sure there'll be some, like a few year change, but there'll be some changes. In the first election, people come in and say, are now in a different district. Look up on that thing. Oh, you're in District 4.
Yep, and they all have an address, an index by address. So if they're not in their poll book, they'll say, okay, what's your address? Nope, you're supposed to be here, and this is how, and there'll be directions on how to get to that polling place.
So then, and this may be a dumb question, but I've never, I guess, see what the result of redistricting really is. I mean, personally, but so District 5 will represent almost 400 more people than all the other districts.
Yeah,
Is that because that's Outagamie County, so there's one representative?
right. And it's because of the number that they can have an award. So they can't cross these county supervisory lines for the districts. So it's because of that, that they'll stay there in, because that's a different county supervisory district that they're in. So I always get confused if it's wards or districts that can cross, and one can and one can't. So for simplicity's sake, so it is because of the number that is needed per ward and because of the county supervisory.
Yeah, here's an example. County can cross automatic districts. You see here. This is my green line is my county district. But this is my automatic, darker brown. And orange is, that's you, David, District 4.
Well, I mean,
County can cross lines, but the city can't.
it's not a big deal, but if, let's say, a tremendous amount of growth happens on that side of town in a body this big, there'd only be one person representing the citizens, New
Right.
London residents of Outagamie County, and then all the others representing,
Yeah.
kind of,
I mean, and that's why they do the process every 10 years. So, if there was, and they try to accommodate for growth in a community, like, okay, we know that this area is booming and we're going to have a big expansion. They might go on the lower end, but we didn't necessarily, like Outagamie County didn't necessarily see that, in New London, that there was going to be a huge difference. But if that happens in 10 years, then they'll get another district.
That SC Sardisky.
I know on House Road. Yeah.
Road, is that that's gonna be in the city limits, right?
Yep. So that would
So-
be
You gave me
Outagamie. So it'd be
District 5.
House Road is like here,
So that.
but
house-
down by S, right?
Corner house road nest right there.
Yep.
Yep.
So then in 10 years, when they do the census, if it warrants that, then it'll change again.
Let's hope that's a problem that we have to
I
put
know.
up these districts again.
Well, but you'll have more people here, you'll have more people here. You should have more people on the road over here, so be a good problem to have.
In terms of industry too, and taxable stuff, it's interesting, although they look at population, not taxable
Right.
value. Yeah, interesting process. Thanks for doing all that extra work.
Well, Wapaka County did a lot, and Outagamie County is the one that did the PDF of both counties together. They didn't have to do that. They just were asked nicely a few times and did it
You
for
were-
me.
You were convinced.
I played the new clerk card. So.
Only works once. though.
I know, that's the worst part. In 10 years, I'll have to make it my own map.
You'll be making it for the whole state.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Nicole. Number 3 is ordinance to amend section 1.03 of the municipal code, revising the maps related to the readjustment of ward boundaries and ultramatic districts. Nicole?
That's
Same thing?
just basically the same information. That'll just have to be passed at council. That's the one that establishes the polling places for the districts.
Can I get a motion to approve the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is discussion on District 2 council vacancy and review of questions used in an appointment process outlined by resolution 1190. Nicole?
So I believe you saw in your packet that Alderperson Olson is vacating her seat because she's moving out of the district effective October 15th. So the process that the city outlined by resolution 1190 back in 2007 was that at this point in her term, they would appoint a person from her district until the spring election. And then at the spring election, the person would, that seat would be up for election for a 1-year term. So in April, it would be a 1-year term for District 2 and the 2-year term for District 2. And the process that the council laid out in 2007 was that people in District 2 that were interested in that appointment would submit their name and a letter of interest to the city clerk. And then they would be asked to speak at a council meeting and answer some questions. So I drafted a letter from similar to what had been drafted in 2007. To answer, when a letter of interest would come in. Now, I think if we got a lot of interest, maybe we wouldn't want to do this at a council meeting, but if we had, somewhere between 2 and 5 or 6 people, it would be doable at a meeting. And these were the questions that were given to the candidates for the appointment back in 2007. So I don't know if you are interested in reviewing those or if those are, those answer what you want in an appointee. And basically that person would come to the council meeting, either answer these questions one by one or have a prepared statement that answers the questions. Then there would be a vote. That vote does have to be public. So you would write on a piece of paper, for example, your name and the person you're voting for. And that would have to be in public record. And then the person that you selected or was appointed by majority would be given the oath and seated at that November council meeting. So I don't know if you guys have any discussion on the questions that you had in 2007.
I just have a comment. Number 3, the city provides a lot of services. I just don't like using a lot. Just seems, the city provides many services. I don't know.
I don't like a lot either, so I like a lot. I like many instead of a lot as well.
Or else
You can just
services.
provide services. yeah.
Abundant.
Numerous, abundance, or something different.
A lot.
Just
Lots and
sounds
lots and
like
lots of-
second.
Many.
Or you could say, do you have any concerns with the services, quality, quantity, cost, efficiency, or delivery offered by the city? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you could break it up into 2 sentences. The city provides, the first one's a statement. City provides a number of services to its residents, and then period. Do you have any concerns about these services?
Those aren't cure-all anyway. It's just like a discussion. point,
Just-
I think.
One's a statement and one's a question.
I agree. So the city provides a number of services to its residents, period. Do you have any concerns about these services, their quality, quantity, cost, efficiency, or efficiency of delivery? Okay.
Question 4. Rita. Do these people, will they know who the others are that are interested, or will it be a blind?
They'll be all at the table here.
Because the way that question 4 is,
How do you know what distinguishes you from the others if you don't know who the others are?
you don't want somebody sitting there doing
Yeah,
Well,
CCAP
that's-
checks and background on who's
Yeah.
ever, but,
That's how you highlight yourself.
right.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
this is my quantities or qualities I have to offer and setting you aside, not necessarily singling out your competitors or
Yeah, but-
whatnot, but this is.
maybe it should.
I understand, but the question should be changed the way it's set. The way it's
So,
stated is.
what
I need
makes
to
you
know anything
uniquely-
Against him
It almost
before I
fits,
can say what the state, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
the whole thing from others seeking the position should be gone.
yeah. So what about what makes you uniquely qualified for this
Yeah, something
position?
like that. Yeah.
rather than like 4
Can I
neighbors.
make a comment?
Yeah.
I went through that process.
This is what
I
you,
had absolutely no problems answering those questions. I knew who the 3 people are running against me. I don't know why we're making such a big issue, but like I said,
I went through the same process.
Bob did too.
We're
We
just
had absolutely
rewording a
no
couple
problem.
Just rewording something to make it look a little bit better. There's nothing wrong with
Tighten
revising
it up.
something 10 years later after you use it.
Mr. Mayor, the reason to get that up there is to get a discussion going for the guy, the man or the woman trying to sell themselves. And being picked.
I completely understand
I
what's
mean,
going
that's
on.
what he said, it's like Mike said,
Right, but you don't,
no sense us beating it first to death on that thing.
You were given these questions and you.
What, to me, not to nitpick it, and I agree with you, but yet the way it's worded, if you look at the pure logic of it, and you're candidate number 1. You have a severe disadvantage by the wording of that, as if you're candidate number 4, because candidate number 4 has the advantage to hear what candidate 1, 2, and 3 say. Whereas if it's generalized question, what sets you apart for this position? What, tell me about something in your life, not, it takes, I don't know. We can leave it like it is. I think people will get the gist.
I mean, that's part of the discussion. If you guys want to change, now's the time to do it.
I think we should just change it. I mean,
Yes.
takes
It's
5
not a
minutes to
big
go through
deal.
these real quick and change them.
Nicole, say that last statement that you said before.
what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
yes,
To that,
Sounds great.
simple and sweet.
and then make number 3, the city provides a number of services to its residents. Do you have any concerns? And then exactly how it is there.
Yes. It's not changing the point.
Well, 1 and 4 are close to the same. Why are you interested in serving on here? It's kind of what distinguishes your qualities. So they're pretty close to the same question.
I think number one is a good opener and 4 is a good closer on that. It
Just
gives you
lets you-
an ending to highlight yourself.
Probably want to have a provision that you draw the names if 10 people apply. They get drawn out of
order.
hat, because I had people go after my livelihood, my career, because they felt that I was biased in what order they went in a questionnaire. We draw the names out of a hat.
Okay, or,
I mean, this is a different.
yeah, I
environment.
mean, do we want draw names out of hat or order of application? I mean, because both I could do easily.
Draw 'em out of a hat. like
Okay.
Johnny said.
Do it that night right there.
That's fair, right?
Sure.
I think that's how they did it.
Yeah.
I think they drew them out of a hat.
Alphabetic order.
It used to not be an issue, but we didn't
I
have
think that's-
death threats to school board members either.
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
I think they drew it out of the hat. If I remember right, they just drew your name out and your number was up.
Okay,
That'll work.
I'll do it.
We don't need no motions on that. We can just go ahead and change that and move forward.
I think so.
So I need a motion to approve resolution 1190 and the questions.
1190 is the one that already outlaid it. So you don't need a motion on that.
Yeah,
On
we just
11.
we referenced that.
Okay,
I make a motion to change the wording. It has been stated.
we need it or
I don't think we need a motion for that. It's just that, because it's a criteria that we're using, not necessarily a.
I'll rescind my nomination.
that's it. Moving on. Discussion and action on ambulance subsidy contract. Chad?
Thanks. Nicole, can you go to PDF page 29? In your packet was the ambulance subsidy for 2021. Page 29 kind of has the summary and the meat and potatoes for what it looks like. We are happy to let everyone know that the subsidy has gone down by a very large number. So usually we don't get to say that, but it's really cool. Down below, if you can scroll down just a little bit, Nicole, you can see there's 19 communities in this consortium with Gold Cross that provides ambulance service in our area. And in 2020, you can see that we were at a per capita subsidy of $10.32 per capita. Unfortunately, because of COVID, their ambulance runs substantially decreased and they bring in a lot of revenue that way. So since the runs went down, the revenue went down. So the community subsidies had to go up to offset their expenses. Luckily, we're hearing that their ambulance runs have returned to almost normal. And so, like I said, in 2020, we were at $10.32. It jacked up to $15.33 in 2021. And now they're back down to a subsidy per capita for 2022 of $10.95. That's going to be about a $32,000 decrease from our budget from 2021 to 2022, which is needed and will be appreciated by far in next year's budget. So
I'd like to congratulate Gold Cross for sticking to their word. I mean, back last year when Chad and I went to that meeting and they said that the inflation, that was a tough pill to swallow. And then them telling us that if services went back to normal, that they're going to bring it down. How often do you hear that? And then it actually sticks.
Yeah.
It's-
that's right.
I commend Gold Cross for doing that. And they
You gotta give
they
it to
really
'em.
went to bat to help things go.
you got to give it to them because it's in 2015. You can see on the board. I mean, they were at 1250 and they've been slowly decreasing that number over the years. Obviously, last year we had the jump, but yeah, they've been doing good to bring that down. So we'll need a approval to send that to council to authorize the execution of that agreement for 2022, sorry.
Make a motion to approve the ambulance subsidy contract.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of a resolution for state trust fund loan roofing project / library. Judy?
Okay, so we've had a number of discussions that we would need an approval for our state trust fund loan as part of our tax levy process this year. And the projects that we will be funding with this are the roof projects, because when we went out to bonding, we were informed by others that we could not take out bond dollars for the roof on City Hall and then the roof for the fire bays. So both of those projects will be funded through this bonding. And then we also have the discussion about the library project. So that $100,000 is also coming from the state of Wisconsin in this bonding process. So I need approval of the $250,000 so we can get this process moving forward so that I can levy it coming up here in November. I actually am going to have to request a prepayment of this bonding because they would not actually require us to make a payment until 2023. But I am requesting prepayment so that we can save our taxpayers interest dollars. So we need to get this moving forward because they need to approve it on November 2nd, disseminate the dollars on November 9th, and then I need to make that request immediately. In fact, I'm going to do it ahead of time. So the lady that does that has a heads up and she doesn't have to do it at the last second. And then I will bring that information in as we go forward with the tax levy, and it will be part of the budget process.
So this information from your packet changed
Oh, yes. So
based on what you
the
said.
disbursement date I had originally put in the packet. I talked with Richard from the state of Wisconsin, and he said, no, we have to be more timely in the disbursement of these dollars in order to get it on the current tax levy. So I have to make sure that I have that prepayment schedule or I can't place it on the tax roll. So I did change, and we did change in the information, and this will be changed when it comes to council. So they are looking for this information from the action at council. So the date on this will be changed to 11/9 of 2021 for all $250,000. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Mhm.
One of the problems we had, didn't we have a problem? We could not get shingles for the library roof. Can we get them now?
That is actually being funded through the bonding, and we are still working on that. We're not really sure.
I just reached out to our consultant at Industrial Roofing Services to see how's the market going, things coming back, and he said things have actually gotten a little worse with the supply and demand. And it sounds like they're requesting some federal, like the shingle group organization companies are requesting some federal dollars to help them get shingles back in the market somehow to do a boost. So yeah, I mean, if we would try to bid it out right now, things that we need are not available. So hopefully by next year, we're back into a position we can do that project.
And we will keep the original estimated dollars, and we'll do a new estimate over time here, but we will keep those bonding dollars available for that project. So once we can get to it, we will have that money available for that project to be completed. So I will need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the resolution for state trust loan fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, on to the finance director monthly reports. Judy?
All right, so there really has not been a lot of changes in either the expenditure or revenue side. We seem to be just trucking along here, coming into our normal limits. So right now we're 9 months into the year, divided by 12. So we'd anticipate in percentages that we'd be about 66%. If you go to the next page, you'll see that we're running at overall 67%. If you go to the next page, Nicole, please. I like to always look at this one, and you can see the insurance line item is a little bit high at this point because two things happen. I just billed the utility for their portion of insurance, and then we'll receive a dividend closer to later in the year. Actually, that comes in January, February of next year, and then I book that. So that one will come down. And then Everything else is running. We can see that our equipment is high, but we also are using designated funds for that. So in February, when I go through the final budget, I do all those adjustments between designated and undesignated funds. So you'll see that. So I have no concern about the fact that our equipment replacement is at 188%. Those will come down. So ambulance is at 74, but we pay that quarterly, so there is only one payment left. That we're chugging along here. Everything's looking good at this point. I don't have anything that's drawing any red flags on the expenditure side. Anyone have any questions on any of those?
With the equipment replacement being so high, do you think in the future it'll be a little bit lower because we're replacing
So
more this year?
what happens is that when I come to, or when you guys come to the February finance meeting in 2022, we will take a look at the operational expenditures and operational revenues at that point. We'll already have passed our tax levy. So we'll already have put $500,000 is what we've been doing for years. We've been able to squeeze that out of our budget for a number of years now. And we'll approve that $500,000. Then in February, we'll take a look at our operational revenues and expenditures and we'll say, we're gonna use X amount of any dollars that are used or unused within this budget and push them into capital. So that's why that dollar amount always looks bigger than actual budget, because now I take those funds within that previous budget and I put them in designated funds. So it's not part of the actual levy limit, but it's dollars that we decide as a committee to use after the fact in February, because everything that we can use, we want to use in capital. So then in February, we'll take another second look at that capital projects list. I can put some of those designated funds in there, and then at the end of the year, I pull them back out. So I guess I could do this one of two ways. Usually I want the real number up here. This is how much money we have actually spent. Because if you actually go through the detail, you're gonna say, why isn't something doesn't make any sense in here? I would rather you understand the fact that I'm pulling money out of our designated funds to be utilized for that extra 88% currently that's being spent within there in those dollars. So what is actually, so we have actually $45,000 that we put aside for a phone project that will be put into there. And then we have an MS Office and then $640,000 in capital reserves that we're using to pay for this. So it's really not over budget. We're just levy and then extra dollars within the budget.
So those extra dollars gets us up to basically technically a 500.
Larger dollar amount. So we'll
$500,000
start with
budget.
our- Right, so we'll start with our $500,000 that we can squeeze out of the current budget. And then we'll add anything that's left from that budget into the capital line item. So you'll see, I believe last year we were at about $640,000 that we used for capital items. And we have, as a finance committee has decided in the past that if there are dollars available within our current budget process, we want to push this into capital because it's our biggest needs and our biggest dollar amounts. And we don't want to continue to just put it into fund balance because we're doing well in that area also. We have a nice, healthy fund balance, but why continue to sock away those dollars when we should be spending them to move the city forward? You want to be at a nice, comfortable level, and I feel like we're there. And then, okay, now let's use those dollars that are left over so that we can move forward within that capital list. And I think it'll make a lot more sense to you in February when I go through that. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. I'm never, ever is my goal is to try to make it as simple as possible so that you can understand where these dollars are flowing through our expenditure and revenue line items.
And you're always talking about the vehicle maintenance and updating and stuff makes them numbers look better.
Right. And that the maintenance line item too, you can see we're at 86%. We have a new employee who is working through the process, I believe, of getting some of those vehicles maintained at a level of which he feels is necessary. So I would expect If it does come over budget, it's not gonna be alarming to us, and we'll just go right back to $130,000. Now, if we're starting to continuously spend more than $130,000 in maintenance, there's a number of things I'm going to look at. Has the price of maintenance gone up? Are we following a maintenance process program differently than we used to? And should I increase those dollars? Or are we not, replacing things fast enough? And that's why we're seeing that number go up. So there's all kinds of things you're gonna analyze once you see that come through. So I do a lot of that in the background. So I, review these in detail every month. And then if I have questions, I go to the department heads and I say, this is something doesn't look right to me here. It looks like we're spending more than we should. And I've had that conversation both with Chad and Luke about what is happening and why are we seeing these equipment dollars higher than I thought? Because I also want that explanation so that when I go into the budget process, am I making smart decisions about keeping it at $130,000 or should we be doing more than that? So I try to think through those processes as I see them pop up also.
So your equipment replacement is usually always higher on the,
Yes.
because it comes out of the capital fund balance. and
Yep.
So.
You're gonna always see that one go over. And it's an
Thank you for the
area where you
explanation.
want to see your dollars spent. So it's a positive actually that we're able to take that funding. A lot of people need to take those dollars from one budget year into the next budget year and put it into fund balance because they're constantly taking their fund balance. So for us to be able to actually shift it right into capital is a very positive thing. But that's taken a lot of years to get that fund balance where we feel that that's a real solid number. And now let's use those dollars in a different way. All right. Then we have the revenues. And again, I do not have any red flags or alarms at this point. We do have state statute that only allows us to invest in certain items. They have to be really solid. We can't invest anything where we would lose principal. So we all know that interest rates it's a tough world right now when it comes to investing dollars. Although we have investments that I will be able to book at the end of the year. 2 of them that I don't book yearly, that will make up the difference. If you want to go up one screen, please, Nicole. I mean, down, sorry. If you look at the interest number, we have enough in those other investments that we will make up the difference in that area. So I'm not concerned about that one. Because if you look at this chart in and of itself, that should be the most concerning. Like, how are we going to make up the money for the interest line item that looks so small? The sewage fund contribution, I do that adjustment also at the end of the year. So although it says 0, it will be 100% at the end of the year. Where else? Intergovernment charges, I charge the utility that has been charged. This is not put on the books yet because I just did that last month. So I'm guessing probably next month you'll see that one in there. But otherwise, I don't see anything of concern. We will see not shared revenue. Can you go up a little bit? Is there more? Yep. Okay. Tax equivalents, we will see that much higher than anticipated. The payment we're going to get from the utility this year is about $40,000 and what was budgeted, and we will be putting that into capital projects. So anything we receive over in revenue or under in expenditures, we will be putting in capital at the end of the year. Very conservative budgeting on the revenue side. And there's a reason for that. You never want to be under on this side because you're going to get yourself in trouble. You want more on the expense and less on the revenue. And then, if you're putting some dollars into capital at the end of those budget years, I think that's a positive thing, not a negative thing. So any questions on the revenue side? And then we have assigned and unassigned fund balance, and this is what I'm talking about. So here's the capital projects reserve. So we have $721,000 in there. I anticipate 800, or we added 882 from last year's budget into this reserve. We expect to expense 640 plus the list below that doesn't get finished from year to year. So every year I send out in February, when I'm closing everything out, department heads, do you have any big bills that I don't know about? Any invoices still hanging out? Do you have any projects that haven't been finished? Because then I list them right on here. And then they know from year to year, you know, oh yeah, that project still is hanging out there. Unfortunately, I think with COVID, this list might get a little larger than we'd like, but we know exactly by the title of what has not gotten done from year to year. Makes it very easy for the department heads to look at this list and say, oh yeah, the porta potties or the, you know, we didn't get to that, or the codification that we're still working on, Newton Blackmore Trail dollars we had put aside in the past. So it just gives them a real easy visual of what they should be getting done in the current year. Sometimes things are just put off. I think the library carpet was put off because they weren't really sure what they were gonna do. So, you know, Ann's like, can I keep the money? And then we can see where this is going to go. I think they've replaced that now, right?
They replaced it.
Yep. So cable TV is the revenue we receive in, and then the expense out every year that we have to designate for that purpose only. There is no changes at all in the unassigned and assigned fund balance from last month. At the very bottom of that, you can see how that's what I'm talking about, is our unassigned fund balance is at about 3 million. And then we are to have maintained 25%, which is 1.8 million, and we're at 3 million. So we're a nice, healthy fund balance. But I like to look at shared revenue as our target, because that's what the state of Wisconsin gives us. And that's what the auditors look at as far as cash flow, because we never receive that money until November. So the cash flow ourselves, we like to keep at least that kind of money on hand. So that's why we're at $3 million. What? A very good level. So why continue to add to it? Why not utilize those tax dollars and go ahead and use them for capital equipment? Any questions on any of those?
The number for the Newton Blackmore Trail, does that include the 5,000 that we agreed from last night? For that lawyer?
We'll take it out of that project.
Oh, okay.
So there's that, you know, what was it? Like 12,000 something. So we've been digging into that for the engineering, and we'll dig into that for the attorney fees as well. But there's also, if we had to dip into more, a little bit farther down, there's the trails ATC. There's a trail account that the city's been, a separate one that the city's been adding in for years for just trail development. So at $43,000, we could dip in there too.
Unassigned fund balance, that's always where we've had bought equipment that we've needed, like the snow blower that time, some of our emergency stuff. So
That
it's-
is correct. That's why you'd like to keep a
That's-
nice, healthy fund balance too, so that if you have to, you know, at any time where, and we did have a snowplow go down, it was 150, well, just about under $150,000. And then taking that out of unassigned fund balance wasn't dropping us below any levels. So that's what you want. You want to be healthy enough so that you can also make those kind of emergency purposes when necessary. And actually, at that point, you have a couple of choices. You can look at your capital reserve and you can look at your unassigned fund balance. So giving yourself a little, you know, some options. Budget year to budget year is always positive too. Any other questions? Okay, then we're on to wheel tax. Shadow Street has, actually, we've gotten some expenditures from there. So currently at the end of August at 80,000 in revenue, almost 81. Expenses out 22,400 and 142. So the money in that account at this time is 58,300. And then we list the projects that have been completed and some of the projects that we may use that money on in the future. And then this is the bonding that I was talking about, and the 2 City Hall roof replacement, the council room and the offices, those will be pulled out of there now that we've approved this. I will pull those 2 out of this schedule. The North Fire Bay can actually be paid with those dollars, so it's just the 18 and the 126. And then we'll keep an eye on this as projects are completed, and we do anticipate some dollars left in here. And again, we will be looking at utilizing that in street projects as we move forward. I had some of these dollars earmarked at the last meeting when I was talking about the library projects and the road projects. I did have $200-ish thousand of this as a revenue line item in that very conservative number in the revenue for replacement of those streets.
Where would, no, Bernie, the guys, at the fire department have been talking about getting pinched area, don't have much room over there. Would that be, Wolford put that on capital projects? For,
Are we talking about a building?
is that what you guys were talking about? They were, I know they were talking about.
Yeah,
getting pinched
in that
room over
parking
there.
lot that's back there,
Mhm.
put up a building, because, I mean, we're cramped for room. We can take you, I can take you in there and show you. We got things double stacked.
I can be very honest with you. It would definitely have to be something that's thought about and put through the process, and it is not gonna happen swiftly.
Well, I
So
understand that.
as we've seen with the city garage, it took us 10 years to get that. The library has been working on, well, the city garage probably took longer than that, probably 20 years. And the library's been asking for the same amount of time and finally got that after 30 years. So I'm not telling you not to add it to the list, because if you don't add it, it never gets done. But if you add it, it becomes priority definitely over time.
Mhm.
So it's never a bad idea to put those kind of purchases on the list so that you're always forward thinking about, okay, when can we fit this in? When is the time that we can bond that can be done? So yes, definitely have Mark add that to his capital items. And then you have to kind of put an estimate of how much it's gonna be cost. And I understand that's just gonna be, what do we think at this point?
Mhm.
And then have them pick a year and put it in there, so. Definitely. Have them added to the capital list, because all of a sudden, at some point, it could become an extreme need. And if it's not added to the list and becoming prioritized through time, it'll never get done. Or can come and talk to me about that, about getting that on the list.
Okay.
And that's it for the finance report.
The Finance Director report.
All right, so I continue to work on our 2022 budget. I always meet with the department heads. We have discussion about revenue and expenditures. It's a good time for us all to get together and talk about that. So, and I continue to update revenues as they come in from the state, because a lot of our funding comes from the state of Wisconsin. So as they let me know what those revenues are, I change my estimates to theirs. I submitted a $5,000 grant to CIVMIC and received those to help pay for the police video recording devices. Spent time on the committee of the whole meeting and presenting that information. We all had some FEMA or FMLA and FSLA training through CIVMIC. We spent an afternoon, I think it was on a Friday or morning afternoon, something like that. Attended the CIVMIC board meeting. Attended a mandatory all-day CDGB training for grant dollars on both Lima Lyman's and for the park programs, and that was mandatory. So we actually had to let them know that we were in those meetings. I sent the information along with Nicole, helped me with the straight trust fund loan, filling out that information. I continued to fill in for some payroll related items. I completed the health insurance renewal. We came in at 4.5%. So I actually got them to come down an entire percent by just asking. And then saying that we were gonna look elsewhere. So I think we did, Jay and I did a great job talking to them and getting them to understand that if they didn't come in at a reasonable dollar amount, that we can only afford so much. So you will see that it is minimal dollars to our budget. And really helped us out at the end of the day. squeeze that $500,000 that I like to get out of the budget every year. So it was a good year. So it was less than 2.5% overall in our budget, which is not what you can say at a lot of organizations today. I attended the CIVMIC annual meeting in Sheboygan. It was really nice to see people again. I was shocked it didn't get shut down, but it was a good time. We talked about strategic planning, financial renewal updates. As you know, that is our insurance carrier, everything except health insurance. And then just so you know, right now, myself, Chad, all department heads are continually monitoring the Legal Wisconsin municipalities and the ARPA funding that's coming through. So we want to try to maximize for our community as much of those dollars as we can. And so Nicole and I met with the library today. Remember, I talked about the grant opportunity that we are hoping to get for that library project. That is in the works. We are moving forward on that. It's called the Neighborhood Investment Fund Grant. So we will continue to move through that and see if there's anything else that we may be able to apply. We were looking possibly of something for downtown for that same grant. We'll think through that process too, but the turnaround on these grants is real quick. When does that due? November 2nd. So we definitely have to continue to move forward so that we can get our hat in the ring and hopefully receive some of these ARPA funding dollars that are being expensed for community. Anyone have any questions?
I have a report, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks for the health negotiation. The health. That's huge.
A percent is a lot of money to us when it's over $1 million. So, yep, I have played that game more than once in my life. So every year I go through the same project. Last year though, with COVID, I'll have to admit to you, it was a no. Last year's was the first year where I went back and said, I think everyone was so uncertain that they were just, health insurance companies were a little bit nervous about where things were all gonna lie at the end of that it was the first time they said no. But every year, if you don't ask, you don't get. So another percent came off and we went ahead and stayed with We a Trust. We did make a plan change outside of network. So there will be some more dollars for those people that are outside network within the plan. But we also took a look at who is utilizing that and what that meant to us. And there was 2 people on that list and we took a look at how that was going to affect them. And it wasn't going to be anything that where they couldn't change. So as an example, Children's Hospital in Milwaukee wasn't covered, but they could go to Children's Hospital in Madison. So there was good alternatives within the plan that they could turn to. So we feel like it's another good year where we kind of got by with the great increase. And you don't ever want to see an increase, but a better than average increase. So it'll help our budget and help us move forward with some of our capital items, hopefully for 2022.
All right. Thank you, Judy. Make the motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Motion carried. We are adjourned.
You want me to
All
tell
the
her?
Take a vote on that.
Huh?
Gotta take a vote on that.
Fred has
On
been-
the adjournment.
Oh, do I?
You
Oh.
can't, you got a first.